Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Well, the question came up in a discussion yesterday that I sat in on, and they were discussing chanting the holy names. And the leader of the group explained how he approaches the chanting. A set time, a regular time, every day, and nothing in the way. Nothing on in front of him to distract him, paperwork or shopping lists or whatever is there. And he just sits down and he does 16 rounds right up before he does anything the rest of the day. And it was good. He was stressing how there's nothing more important really than the chanting. Hare Krishna. It was very good instruction. Very, very good instruction. And then the question came up, well, I just feel like a robot when I'm chanting. I'm just repeating the name. My mind tells me I'm just repeating the names over and over again. I'm just repeating it. Like in Christianity, they say vain repetition. So that kind of chanting can kind of correlate to the Christian idea of vain repetition. And yet it's recommended to just do it anyway. This is the recommendation. And then it came up that, well, we want to chant with love. And that's why this other person said, well, I don't have any love. I'm just repeating over and over again these names, but I don't have any love. Wow. So the instruction, well, just keep chanting anyway. So I'm wondering is, even if you don't have any love, why don't you just make believe? When you're chanting, tell Krishna you love him. Even if you don't really love him, you don't even know what that means, just tell him, I love you, when you're chanting. I got some really good instruction from a Christian one time. I was attending some of their worship sessions, and they had a part of their program was that you could go up to the altar and ask for something, special mercy. So when I asked my friend, I was her guest, I said, I want special mercy. What do you ask for? She said, well, I can tell you what I do. I don't ask him for things, because he already knows what I need. And I don't tell him my problems, because he knows all about that too. When I go up for special mercy, I just tell him I love him. So what I'm wondering is, instead of just keep chanting anyway, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, even though you don't feel anything, and it's not Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Instead of doing that, why don't you just tell him you love him, even if, you don't even know what that means, or just tell him, I love you. Why not just say it? There was a devotee who was telling me, I want to love Krishna, but I don't. I want to love God, but I don't. I said, well, what's he supposed to do with that? I want to love you, but I don't. What's he supposed to do with that? Instead of doing that, just tell him, I love you. What's so hard about that? I love you. I want to serve you. I don't realize very much about you at this point, but I see that you're lovable. So, I love you. Why not? What's so hard about that? Instead of, well, just keep chanting anyway for 700 lifetimes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's kind of like the Vedic understanding of marriage is not a romantic thing necessarily, but it's arranged. The parents arrange for the young man, the boy. He knows he has his wife, and they're not married yet. They're not living together as husband and wife or courting or anything like that. But at home, the young girl, at least this is the way I've understood, because we're in the West and this is like a whole other planet, which it is. At home, her mother guides her. Okay, now make this nice little preparation, and you'll bring it to your husband. And he's just a young boy. He's over at his house. So she makes something and she brings it over. And in that way, she starts serving him. And then eventually, out of this service, the love comes. So I'm looking at this chanting. It's like, okay, just keep chanting, just keep serving the holy name, and eventually the love will come. That must be the idea there. That we just keep chanting, and like the young girl, she's serving her husband, and eventually, the love will come. That must be the idea there. She's a servant of her husband, and eventually he's her shelter, and then they become attached to each other. That must be the idea. But what if the girl comes home and she says, I don't love him. I don't even like him. I'm not attracted to him. I don't want to. I mean, I'm doing it as a matter of duty, but I don't feel any love for him. What if the mother said, well, start thinking another way. Oh, don't resist so much. And just start thinking in terms of that you're serving him because you love him. Just start thinking like that rather than it's just a duty. Why not start thinking that he's your, why not? Why not that kind of instruction instead? Well, just keep making this preparation and just keep bringing it over anyway. Why that? Why not encourage, in the direction of loving service? Why not? So if a devotee is complaining or expressing, I'm chanting now for like 20 years, and I don't have any love, and it's just so dry, and I'm just repeating over and over again these names. Why even do it? Why not encourage that, well, when you're chanting, just tell Krishna you love him. Why not? Why not? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So that topic came up, and the instruction was coming from the leader of the group. Well, just keep chanting. Just keep chanting. Why not say, well, when you're chanting, tell Krishna you love him. You want to serve him. Even if you don't really love him, you just tell him you love him anyway. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I remember as a child, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years old, this really stuck out. I remembered it all these years. It's a very small thing, but it was profound. It had a profound experience, profound impression on me. My father was sitting in the little den there watching the television, which is, that's the way it goes. And it was getting late. It was time for me to go to sleep. So my mother said, before you go upstairs, go in there and tell him you love him. Give him a little kiss on the cheek and tell him you love him. Which was something I didn't think of. I mean, of course I love my father, and I really do. He's really a great guy, an incredible father. But I didn't think to do that on my own. But she told me, just go in there and tell him you love him. And it was not something that I spontaneously came up with. I just assumed, that he knew I loved him. Why did they have to? But I went in and I gave him a little kiss on the cheek and I said, I love you. Why not tell Krishna you love him? Just do it. Just do it. Just tell him you love him. You don't have to go through big austerities. You don't have to give millions of dollars to charity. You don't have to do that. It's nice to do it because it's service. Hey, why not, Help somebody else for sure. Why not just tell Krishna you love him? Why not? Is it so hard?